Blizzard has just pulled a Kevin Spacey, okay? This is a story. It's from Forbes. A better way for Overwatch to reveal Soldier 76 as gay. We'll come to this story in a second, okay? But I want to make sure you're aware of it, and most of you probably are. Most of you have probably heard about this, the other day or a couple days ago. Essentially, Soldier 76 is one of the, he's one of the characters in Overwatch, which is a team shooter game, okay? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they just said, oh, by the way, this dude's gay. And everyone was kind of like, what does that have to do with anything? But apparently, this story, January 9th, all right, we saw this story. This is from videogamer.com. Ex-Blizzard staffer says he quit due to racial abuse. Julian Murillo Quayler suffered suicidal thoughts as a result. Now, I don't know which story predated which, but I do think it's still kind of funny that they came out around the same time because it's effectively like a Kevin Spacey, where this employee comes out and says they're bigoted, racist, whatever. It was racial abuse. So Blizzard's response is, Soldier 76 is gay? So if you don't know what happened with Kevin Spacey, he got accused of assault, and his response to, groping some, minor was, by the way, he came out and said, by the way, here's a statement saying he's gay or whatever. And that people kind of laughed, no apology, no denial, just, oh, by the way, Kevin Spacey is gay. And this is kind of what's happening. Now, look, a lot of people have complained that they don't like the idea of shoehorning in this sexuality to these characters or whatever. Well, I actually have no issue with Soldier 76 and how they write the character. It's fine. Whatever. Apparently people are saying Soldier 76 has always been gay, and it's just that they're just dropping it now, maybe because of this story. So let's see what happened with Blizzard. What did Blizzard do? An ex-staff member at Blizzard Entertainment has claimed in a post on TwitLonger that he suffered racial abuse and discrimination during his time at the studio, resulting in his decision to leave the company. The former employee spoke of how he suffered from suicidal thoughts as a result of the abuse, and said that he thought his health would never recover during my time at Blizzard. During December 2017, I reached out to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, hoping to get a resolution should Blizzard fail, and that's when I realized of the statute of limitations regarding my racial discrimination and abuse, he wrote. I didn't have much to go by, and my case would be dismissed. His LinkedIn profile reveals that he had joined the Diablo creator back in 2013, although issues first began to rear their head in 2016 when he was part of the esports team for Hearthstone. He soon had the opportunity to go full-time, after which he reveals he was left out of important meetings and was subjected to jokes by a colleague about my sexism or natural inclination to be sexist due to my Mexican heritage. Wow. The assumption, because that my attitudes, beliefs were that of a Mexican machista male chauvinist, I didn't make much of this since she said it in jest, but this would weigh on me, he commented. The abuse would become more frequent as time went on, to the point where Murillo Quayler revealed he was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. As a result, he broached the topic with his manager. I was told I was being moody, and that nobody knew how to approach me. When I told him what was happening, I was told not to pay attention, and that he would take care of it. That wouldn't be the case, and the racial attacks continued. Oh, this is really interesting. It sounds like the person who was coming at this individual was actually on the left and accusing him of being sexist and being racist at the same time. There's that Patton Oswalt tweeted about this. This generation's male feminist turns out to be an abuser is the past generation's Republican, anti-gay Republican turns out to be gay. I think we got something else too. I think we got another one. This generation's anti-racist activists actually turn out to be the racists. And I think you'd find that to be true, at least to a certain extent. Over the next few years, Murillo Quayler's health would continue to deteriorate as the abuse went on, as well as the fact he would regularly work in the early hours of the morning. He later suffered panic attacks and nervous breakdowns, which led him to contemplating suicide in December 2017. Despite raising the issue with his superiors on a weekly basis, virtually nothing was done to resolve the issue. He would ultimately leave Blizzard Entertainment in April of last year. And he tweeted about it. He says, real reason why I left Blizzard, racial abuse and discrimination, and he posted a link to it. So what ends up happening? We end up seeing this story, which was published January 8th on Twitter, and then, a day later, Forbes publishes this story. A better way for Overwatch to reveal Soldier 76 as gay. So again, look, I'm not saying I know which one came before the other. I just think it's a funny, situation that both these stories sort of come out. Maybe Blizzard knew the story was going to come out. Maybe they didn't. Maybe it has nothing to do with it. Maybe it's just, it happened. But let's see what they say as to why, what happened with Soldier 76 and what does Forbes think should be done about it. To start, it's a big deal. Blizzard recently revealed that Overwatch's Soldier 76 is gay or bi by hinting at a previous relationship that he had with a man in an online short story. The sort of external sources that contain of the multiplayer's game's formal narrative. That means that two of Overwatch's most iconic characters have been confirmed to be involved in same-sex relationships, which is a nice note in the broader industry still groaning its way towards better inclusion. And yet I can't help but feel there's something convenient about this. Overwatch is a game where 100% of the story takes place outside of the game, and so it offers up a comfortable way for Blizzard and Activision Blizzard to explore these kinds of ideas in a way that I have to imagine the majority of the player base will literally never encounter. So yes, Tracer and Soldier 76 have same-sex relationships, but you won't know that if all you do with this game is play it. Now, I think that's not fair. That's not fair at all. There's basically no storyline in the games, okay? If you've ever played Overwatch, it's basically... There's some, you capture a zone, so you get all your dudes to stand in a ring, and then you capture the zone, and then you hold it for a long enough time, and then once you earn enough points from holding it, you win. And then there's other stories where there's a payload, like a truck, and you gotta stand on or near the truck so it moves. We have no idea what's happening, okay? I played Overwatch for quite some time. I don't play it anymore, actually got rid of it. But you'd stand on a truck, and you have no idea why, and then it gets to the end, and then something happens. In one level, you're in London, and you drive a truck into an area, and then there's a big pulse of energy. And it's I wonder what that's all about. Most people don't know or care. However, if you read the lore, you'd find out it's actually an EMP pulse meant to kill a bunch of robot people. Well, there you go. If you explore later on, you can find that out. But literally, no one knows that either. To conflate the idea that people should put this in the game when they don't put core details of the actual narrative as to what these people are doing, and okay, look. Overwatch is about a team of heroes who do good stuff to save people because there was a war. All right, long story short. If they're not going to tell you why they're doing what they're doing because it's a multiplayer shooter game, why would they just shoehorn in, by the way, the dude you're playing is gay? Okay? It's a bit unfair to say that. It doesn't necessarily have to be this way. Overwatch doesn't need to suddenly morph into a co-op campaign game with full voice work and cutscenes, though Lord knows I and a plenty of others wouldn't mind this. I think that'd actually be cool. They've done a really great YouTube videos for their characters, which has been great. But just because there's no formal story in the game doesn't mean that Blizzard doesn't work on fleshing out its particular brand and narrative into its levels out of its and limited time events. The best idea I've heard came from Adam Koebel on Twitter. He said, hey Blizzard, you like doing events for Overwatch, right? Like Lunar New Year or Summer Games, how about a Pride event where all these supposedly queer characters get to be their damn self in the game and celebrate their queerness? See, this is one of the issues I find that makes the culture war a thing, right? Why is it that you need in the game for them to overtly tell you they're gay, okay? There's a lot of things about all of these characters we don't know. Important things about their life. Is it important that maybe one character's dad was murdered and that's their motivation? It is. And I would actually argue that beyond someone's identity, their sexuality, there are other things that are more important about them that aren't in the story either. So I find it weird that so many people want that to be their identity. By all means, if you do, you're free to do so. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying, aren't there people who believe that this should be a secondary characteristic, that at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and we should treat people well based on the content of their character and not some identity issue? Like, Soldier 76 he's got a crazy story. He stole technology, and then he puts on this mask, and there's a video where he saves a little girl. What's his motivation? His motivation is more important than the fact that he had a boyfriend at one time. I mean, at least for somebody who cares about equality, in my opinion. But they're literally saying, instead of just making the game fun, where a character happens to be, one thing or another, they want to push it into the game where it doesn't make sense, right? And I'll say it again. If we don't see core details for why the story happens, right? Why would they do a Pride event to let us know it just so happens that two of the characters are gay? And that's the other thing, too. They're going to do a full event. They do Lunar New Year's, they do Christmas, they do Halloween. That all makes sense. Pride is fine, too, but there's only two characters that are gay. So it's kind of like, once again, you're shoehorning in something that has nothing to do with, the overall story of the game. And I can understand Halloween doesn't either. But Halloween's a big holiday for everybody. Movies come out, people go eat candy, and there's parties. Same thing for Christmas. These are huge cultural events. Pride is a relatively large cultural event, but it's still nowhere near the size of Christmas, right? So, anyway, whatever. He says, I wouldn't mind seeing Pride events in all sorts of games. Fortnite, which introduces new skins on a constant basis, could easily do something for the event. And from a financial perspective, I have to imagine they'd sell pretty well. He mentions doing skins and stuff. I just think, you know, where I come from, I grew up, and when I was growing up, my family had a business on the north side of Chicago. It was in the Boys Town area. And so my family was always very progressive in this capacity. And the one thing that was always told to me is that this doesn't isn't your identity. It's not who you are. It's just something about you that doesn't matter. And one of my friends that I worked with like 10 years ago, who was gay, said he hates the culture because he doesn't want that to be who he is. He said that he just happens to like dudes, and he's actually big into comic books and video games, and he'd much rather be identified as something he's good at and his passion than simply because he happens to like a guy, right? But you know what? I'm not gay, so I don't know. And I'm just talking as a straight guy and my perspective on how they do all these things. And I guess the bigger point is just plain and simple. It's like, it comes off kind of like a Kevin Spacey, Blizzard, that you're only doing this now because someone came out complaining about racial abuse, and then there you go. So, you know, whatever. I don't know why I don't play Overwatch anymore. I just got bored of it. I just don't think it's that fun. So, yeah. I got another video coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you then.